He's a busy man, and getting on his schedule, you have to know his personal assistant, which I kind of have an in with her. So Paul is the CEO of Cedar Band Corporation here in Cedar City, which is owned by Cedar Band of Paiutes. A lot of people don't know that our very own Paiute band here actually has some awesome companies that they run, and Paul is the man in charge of all of those. Paul is an awesome husband and a wonderful father, and he has got a beautiful little granddaughter. I really want Paul to tell you more about him, but I want him to tell you about the awesome companies also of Cedar Band Corporation. Paul Terry.
Well, thank you, Nicole. I will do my best to, I don't know what, live up to that. I try every day with my wife and my staff, that's for sure. This is great. I recognize a few people here, which is nice to see familiar faces, that's for sure. As Paul mentioned, Paul's a great guy. I've never known Paul except for, as he mentioned, about 2 months ago. We were asked to participate in the inaugural session of the Iron Leaders Academy, and it's been an honor. It's been a humbling experience, I think, to be part of that and to meet with a lot of different community and academic and professional leaders, and you feel small when you get to meet them and understand what they have done throughout their careers, and all that they've done to give back as well to our community. So that's been a wonderful opportunity to meet many people, including Paul, and he's dynamic. Between Paul and Nicole, that's why I'm here. And so let me ask, who knows that Cedar Band Corporation even exists? By a show of hands.
I didn't 2 months ago.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. So who didn't know before Nicole mentioned it today? Okay, interesting. So it's been kind of a hidden pearl, I think, in this area. So I'm trying to get the word out, however I can, that we exist, and we are a part of this community. We are grateful to be a part of this community. I'll give you a little bit of background as to myself and how we got to Cedar, to Parowan actually, where we purchased a home when we moved here just over a decade ago. So we're from Northern California originally, came to Utah for undergraduate studies at the U, and went to Virginia for my first year of law school and loved it, absolutely loved it. Just the history of Virginia and driving by empty fields, wondering what battles took place on those empty fields that aren't marked as an actual battlefield. I don't think they stuck to certain fields. I think they battled everywhere. So you could drive by open fields and wonder who lost their blood and their lives in those fields. And I'm a history buff to no end. So that was fun for us to be there. We went straight from undergrad right into grad school, and it was difficult because it's my wife and I and our oldest at the time, who was 10 months old, trying to support ourselves. So we took a financial leave from my program back there, and we moved back to California to my folks' home outside of Sacramento. And I actually got my teaching credentials for some of the teachers in the room and the administrators. I got my substitute credentials, and I substitute taught for that year and absolutely loved it. And then we reapplied to schools in that area that we had asked our school administrators at our school in Virginia what school would be comparable to their school back there, and they mentioned UC Davis and McGeorge and Santa Clara law schools. And so we applied to each one, and then we chose Santa Clara. So we finished my second and third year there, and then I cut my teeth in technology in the Silicon Valley. Absolutely loved it, generally speaking. Didn't want to practice law. I do not practice law. Don't hold that against me, please. But I wanted to use it in business, and so it was a great opportunity for us as I graduated, and then I went into business there in the Valley and worked for quite a few technology companies. And then we made our way back to Sacramento. My wife didn't want to spend $750,000 on a 1,100 square foot home, and I didn't blame her. So she said, start looking, and she's the boss. And so I did, and I felt it was time that I could run my own legal department. So a healthcare insurance company in the Sacramento area was looking for a in-house guy, and so it all worked out. And then we made our way back to the Sacramento area. While we were in the Bay Area, we had some friends in our church congregation who were from southern Utah. And when some opportunities came up for us here, my mother-in-law's old pioneer stock, the Danes family up in Salt Lake, her brother Skip Danes runs the Danes Music Company, if anyone is musically inclined. That's my wife's uncle. And I think he was actually part of Rotary in Salt Lake. I think he was a president of Rotary. So that's the extent of my Rotary connection is through my wife's uncle, Skip. Until recently, my second daughter, her husband, his grandfather is Paul Summers, and he was president of Rotary. I'm not sure how that works in Bountiful, but okay. He was the Rotary president up there, and so we were just golfing a couple months ago, and we talked about nothing else but Rotary the whole time. So I thought, okay, maybe there's a reason why we're talking about Rotary, and then I get a call from Paul to come and speak. So things, I think, work out the way they should, and we're prepared by different people for things to work out in a certain way. So anyway, this opportunity came up in Cedar, and we didn't know anyone down here in southern Utah, but then we remembered we had friends in the Bay Area who moved back to southern Utah. They sold their home for way too much money at the peak of the market and bought a way too big of home in Parowan, and they were retired, so they stuck all that money in the bank, and they've just been enjoying life, I think, back in Parowan. So we reached out to them, not even knowing if they would still remember who we were, and they screamed and said, "You're here, and so please come to our home." And so I stayed with them actually for about 3 months until we moved our children out from, my wife and our children out from Northern California when the school year was done, after I accepted a position at what was Cedar Band Enterprises. That was a management services company. And I kind of started from the bottom. I was their contracts manager, became their VP of contracts, VP of administration, VP of legal, chief legal officer. Then I was assigned to be president over 2 of the companies that we were running. And then in 2014, I was assigned to be I was appointed to be the president and CEO over the entire enterprise. In 2012, my outside Indian law counsel, Mark Echohawk, and I decided it might be prudent for us to form a federally chartered tribal corporation. So through the Department of Interior and the Bureau of Indian Affairs, they allow tribes to form what's called a Section 17, and which in opposition to the Section 16, which is the political side of a tribe or band, in our case band. And in our case is unique in the sense that the 5 constituent bands of the Paiute Indian Tribe of Utah are all federally recognized. Not all bands are. Bands are kind of like a family unit, but at the time, strangely enough, Mark Echohawk's dad, Larry Echohawk, was the one who was forming, reestablishing the Paiute tribe here in southern Utah. And wisely on his part, don't know why, but perhaps he was inspired, to form the five bands as federally recognized bands. So we've got the Kusharim in Richfield, the Kanash in Kanash, the Cedar band in Cedar. We've got the Indian Peaks band also in Cedar, very small band, and the Shubwitz in St. George. They're all five federally recognized. The P2, or the Paiute Indian Tribe of Utah, is not federally recognized. So the five bands sloughed off some of their rights to what was then nothing, and they formed the Paiute Indian Tribe of Utah. And they formed this tribal council so that they could get together and do things on a not on an economic basis, but on a social and a cultural basis. So that's how the P2 was organized. But each of the five bands, we are federally recognized, and so we don't need to work through the Paiute Indian Tribe of Utah. We do on certain things, but the economic side of the house, that's us, that's ours. And so we don't deal with the Paiute Indian Tribe of Utah. So it's an education process. Every time someone comes to me and say, you know, we want to deal with the Paiute Indian Tribe, I said, that's great. Go talk to Shane Parashons. He's the tribal administrator. I'm not that rude, but I just say, you know, there's Shane Parashons, and he's the right person for that. If you're interested in working with the Cedar Band of Paiutes, that would be our chairwoman on the Section 16 side. On the economic side, that's me. So there's some separation, and it's done wisely by the Department of Interior to make sure that there's no spillage. There's no political spillage to the economic side, and also vice versa from my side to the political side. They don't want any undue influence either way. If the band council wakes up one morning and says we want to get rid of our managers, well, they've got to work through my board. I've got a board just like in corporate America. I've got a chairman, I've got my board members, and they're appointed by the band council, so we ultimately answer to the band council, but it just creates that bright line delineation so that there's no spillage either way, and so that I can't unduly influence elections on that side of the house, which we don't. We're very careful to make sure that we are not violating any Department of Interior laws, and we've been very successful. I tell my board, I've got a board meeting tonight as well, but this worked out perfectly. I tell my board we've been blessed as a group of companies, and then I qualify that by saying that we've worked very hard to be blessed, but definitely we have been blessed. So the holding company, Cedar Band Corporation, wholly owns all of our operating entities. Half of our companies are defense contracting, so we deal with the Department of Defense primarily. We deal with various three-letter agencies and departments, but primarily with the DoD because they have the largest budget in the U.S., if not in the world. So they have a lot of work for their contractors to do, which is understandable. We've done work for the Department of Commerce, Department of Interior, State Department. I just finished a contract with NOAA, with the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration in Seattle. We were in charge of all their divers for NOAA. So all their tanks would go to Seattle, and our employees that we had working there, they took care of all their tanks, all their scuba tanks, all their gear. So as small as that, so we've had contracts at Hill Air Force Base, data cleansing contracts on the F-15s to make sure that the parts that the planes or the jets currently have are the same parts that we can order. So we have to make sure that data is cleansed to make sure there's a new part number. So to that, we had a airspace integration contract down at Nellis where we were writing the handbook for the drones. When the drones came back from theater, those pilots had to be battle ready always. So they had to be tested and trained always. And it's hard to train on a drone if your deck is 10,000 feet above the deck and you can't interfere with the FAA space where you and I fly. It gets dangerous, obviously. So we were writing that handbook to make sure that those drones could be flown by the pilots sitting at Creech Air Force Base and yet not interfere with the FAA airspace. So that was called airspace integration between the DoD airspace and the FAA. We've had large contracts at Fort Belvoir outside of Washington, D.C. We were the base ops contractor, meaning we were the city corporation. We were like Cedar City Corporation for Fort Belvoir. We did HVAC, plumbing, electrical, roads and grounds, buildings and structures. We took care of their hospital back there. We had 180 employees back there. We had a white fleet of about 100 trucks. We had a yellow fleet of vac trucks and batwing mowers to take care of the grass. That's where most U.S. presidents play golf. Most U.S. presidents, besides our current one, because it's close to the White House. So that grass had to be cut at a certain, it sounds weird, but it had to be cut at a certain height, right, for the president as he would come in to play golf. So, and we've got construction contracts now out at Tobyhanna Army Depot in Pennsylvania, Twilla Army Depot outside of Salt Lake, and then I've got 3D modeling programming contracts at Fort Lee in Virginia, which is kind of fun since I went to law school there in the Richmond area. So every time I fly out there, I can go see our old stomping grounds where we lived for that first year. So those are half of our companies. The other half are non-government contracting entities. I've got a mortgage agency, we've got a distribution company, we've got a beverage company, which is interesting. You've got a bunch of LDS guys trying to run a wine company, but we are the only national tribally owned wine company, and we've done well. We're the exclusive wine to the Smithsonian Institution. They've got a cafe there in the basement of the National Museum of the American Indian called the Mitsitan Cafe. We're their exclusive wine. So that's how, I've never tasted it. My vice president of that company, he's my taster, and he tells me that it's good. I trust him, but I verify. I'm a student of the Ronald Reagan School of Thought, so I trust, but I verify. And so as we enter into these international wine competitions and come out with gold, silver, and bronze for a little Native American tribally owned company here in southwestern Utah, that verifies to me that the wine is good. Our partners, believe it or not, are in my hometown of Lodi, California. I never knew them because we don't run around in that space. But I've got friends from my childhood who have property in that area and orchards. And so as we were looking to get into this space of this wine company, I reached out to them and said, hey, we're thinking about partnering with the Lang twins. And they said, you could not have a better partner. They've been 5 generations farmers. They farm 8,000 acres. 6,000 are other landowners, acreage and vineyards. They just don't know how to be wine growers and wine grape growers, so they lease it out to the Lang twins. They have about 2,000 estate acres, which they own themselves. And they really private label for some of the biggest wine companies out there. If you drink wine, you would know who they were. I didn't know who they were until now. I know more about the wine industry than I ever thought I would or ever wanted to. And we have our convenience store at Exit 51. Most people call it a smoke shop. That's fine. We just built our full service travel plaza on the opposite side, Sinclair branded. I was just on the phone this morning with Tesla. They're our partners, and they're going to be building. I can't say much about it because Tesla controls so much of the information that comes out about Tesla because of their CEO, Elon Musk, who has a huge ego, which is probably good for Tesla drivers, that he's got a big ego, because he really does take care of the Tesla drivers. I think we'll be the highest concentration of what's called V3 supercharging technology between Las Vegas and Salt Lake City, between the dealership in Las Vegas and the dealership up in Salt Lake City. The goal is to have 16 V3 supercharging stalls, so you'll see a bunch of red lights at night as you drive by our travel plaza. It won't happen until next summer because Rocky Mountain Power has been working with Tesla. They don't have the ability to power 16 supercharging. It's about the same power that the University Mall up in Orem would require to power the entire mall, just for those 16 stalls. So it's a lot of energy that's required, and there's no ability right now. So I said I can't wait for 12 to 18 months until Rocky Mountain Power does what's called their utility upstream upgrade. Is there anything else we can do so I don't have to wait? And they said, well, let's see what we can do. So Tesla's bringing in 4 MSUs, which are the mobile supercharging units. So we're hopeful to have them by Thanksgiving, even by next week. So that'll be huge. I've got a couple friends in Parowan who drive Teslas, and they said, Paul, when you open up your Tesla supercharging stalls, you're going to have a line and a half, because that trip from St. George even back to Cedar and to Parowan kills our battery life. It's a steep climb up to Black Ridge, and it's all about battery life for those Tesla drivers. So we are looking forward to, I told my team as we were contemplating the build, it's one thing to build a fossil fuel station, right? There's a lot of fossil fuel stations, but this is 2019. It's now 2020. And if we're not looking at alternative fuel, we are going to lock ourselves out of the market. So we started that process. Jenkins Oil here in town is a fuel jobber whom we chose. And Eric Jenkins, the president, I was chatting with him, and he said, good luck, Paul, getting Tesla, because they own all the rally stops in Cedar, St. George. He said, I've never been able to get Tesla to even take a second look at us. I said, well, I guess all we can do is ask. So we reached out to Tesla, and as soon as they geo-fenced us and found out where we were located on I-15, I think they were out on a plane that next week to visit us, and this was back in 2019. So we will have a great partner in Tesla, because we are right on I-15 there at exit 51. So, and then we've got other things in the hopper that I could talk about, but I think that pretty much sums up whom we are as a corporation. I've got one shareholder, that's the Cedar Band of Paiutes. All of my dividends go to my one shareholder. And so I'm getting ready to do my next dividend distribution tonight at the board meeting, which is when I do it. I take it to the board, the board has to approve it, and then we send those checks over to the band. I understand my role and my responsibility, and my stewardship is to the Cedar Band of Paiutes, and I take that very seriously. I've had prospective partners come to me, wanting to do something because we're a tribe. We don't pay federal taxes, state taxes. There's different types of new market tax credits you get within Indian country on trust lands, and most corporations know that. I've had them come to me and want to partner, but really use me and our operations as the vehicle, but not fully compensate what they're getting from me, and it doesn't fly. I mean, this happens frequently. So we vet these opportunities, because we take very seriously our role. And I tell my executive team, don't get too comfortable in your seats, because our goal is to raise up these band members to become you and me one day. So we want them to go to business school. We want them to go to engineering school. We want them to go to law school. We want them to go, but come back, and then become us, take over our roles. I don't plan on being here forever, but just long enough to make sure that I can hand this off in the way that I had set those goals for myself when I was appointed CEO in 2014. And this says nothing about me. This says everything about my executive team. In 2014, we were about a $3.2 million company with a $1 million net loss. And so we were upside down as a company. At the end of 2019, we're about a $71 million company, enterprise-wide, with about a $50 million net profit. And that says everything about my executive team. I've been blessed to be able to hire the right people who think the way that I think. Not always. I don't ask for yes people. If they are, then I'll dismiss them. They know that. I don't want yes people around me. I want people to be really serious and honest with me, because I have a lot of great ideas, and I need my CFO and my controller to tell me, you can't do that, Paul. I said, I want to do it, so go figure it out. And then they'll say, well, we tried, but we can't. Okay. And then we go on. So it's a great team. We're very dynamic. We've got great project managers at our various sites at Twilla Army Depot and in Fort Lee in Virginia and Toby Hanna. And we've just won a $95 million contract down at Nellis in Las Vegas, Nellis Creek and Nutter. It's called the Nevada Test and Training Range. So we'll do construction for them for the next 5 years. And so we just continue to go. That's our charge, is to go and do. And I think we've tried our best to go and do. I keep looking at Nicole so that I won't forget. Her husband is our general manager at the Travel Plaza, and he's unbelievable. I can't even begin, and I've shared with him many times, if it weren't for you, this Travel Plaza wouldn't be what it is today. I don't know construction. I know my swim lane, and I know my abilities and my strengths, or so-called strengths, but I know a lot of my weaknesses. And so where I don't have that ability, I've tried to hire the right people to really complement who we are as a organization. And Darren is my right hand and probably left hand when it comes to our retail operations. And we will do everything we can, Nicole, to make sure he never leaves us as well. So anyways, that's us. We are trying to get our names out there. I told Scott McCormick at the Chamber, I've been trying to join the Chamber for years, since 2014 at least, and we finally did a couple years ago, and so it's time, more than time, for us to give back. And as I mentioned at a Chamber luncheon not too long ago, people are saying, how do we get people to join the Chamber? Tell them what we can do for them. And I just said, ask those in the community who are business leaders, what can they do for the Chamber? It's not all about what Rotary can do for us or what the Chamber can do for us, but what can we do for Rotary and for Chamber, because we have been blessed. And I fully understand when much is given, or in our case, and in most people's case, when much is earned, much is required of us to give back. And so this is our time to give back. And I tell partners across the nation, if there's anything I can do to help you become a better defense contractor, or better at this or at that, I'm happy to do. Whether or not there's recompense to me or not, I don't care. We've been blessed, so it's our turn to give back. And I believe in karma, that at some point it'll come back around, whether in this life or the next life, it'll come back around. And that's all that we are about right now. And I think it's been recognized, and we've been blessed. I'm not sure how much time I have, Paul. Am I done?
We've got about 4 more minutes.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So maybe we'll do questions, or
I am
keep going,
done.
whatever. Yeah.
No, I'm done. So anyways, thank you for the opportunity. Sure.
The dividends you're going to present tonight, and some of that filter down to the individual Paiutes, and so they get a check.
Yep, good question. That's not up to me, right? So that's that bright line firewall between the 17 side and the 16 side. So when I do my board resolution, which I've got the 2 drafted for tonight's meeting, I outlined 6 things that I would recommend that they use those distributions for: to give back to elders in the band, to give back to the youth who are going to college by way of scholarship, housing, tuition, books, give it to the after-school drug elimination, they've changed their name, drug prevention program, give it for housing needs. If there's a family who wants to purchase a house off the res, help them out. So there's about 6 things that I outlined, but that's all that it is. They're just recommendations, because I will never unduly influence on that section 16 side. If the band council wants to hoard it and then use it sparingly for this or for that, that's entirely up to them. That's their call. I will never get involved in that. So they own us. If one day they wanted to shut us down, they'd have a lot of money that would come back to them that are in our coffers, which they understand. But they understand that this is to be this ongoing annuity for generations to come. That's the companies that we're building. And I said that in our grand opening of the Travel Plaza. My general contractors probably were sick of seeing me show up for our Tuesday meetings with the general contractors, because the word I would always use is legacy. I want you to build us a legacy building that will outlast my lifetime, your lifetime, general contractor, all of our band members' lifetime. This building will last. And we self-funded it. You know, it was about a $4.2 million project, and we self-funded it. You know, we had that in our corporate coffers. So I don't service any debt on that. It's all fully funded. It drops to the bottom line, everything that we earned. So the goal in 2014 was to be debt-free. We accomplished that in 2017. And in August of 2017, I started my distributions. I wouldn't start distributions until we were debt-free. And the board knew that, and the council knew that, and they agreed with me on that. And so every month since August 2017, we've been doing distributions. So yeah, there's a pile of money they're sitting on at the band council, but it's up to them when they use it. But they do not generally do those per capita distributions, which I'm so grateful for. I've now worked under four, maybe 5 band council persons, and I've always shared my position. I think it's unwise to do per capita distributions, because it creates that kind of welfare state. Use it for the greater good. Use it for the youth. Use it for those going to college who will come back and pay dividends to the band, but don't do it on a per capita basis. I've seen tribes back east who have casinos, and they do $1 million per capita distribution every year to their membership. And so these people sit around and wait for $1 million. Now that's a lot of money, right? So they can do whatever they want. But what does that create within that person? It creates just that welfare state. So far our band has opted not to do that. If they ever decided to, I don't have any control over that. Yeah.
I'm just curious to know how the Travel Plaza is doing. I know it's kind of outside of Cedar. Now you got another Maverick going in at the south end of town.
Yeah.
I think it's great that you've got Tesla partnering there. I think that will help. I'm just curious in general how it's doing.
So every Monday I have my team meetings, and then I have my executive team meetings. So if there's anything I have to discuss on a confidential basis, those in my team meetings are excused. And just in our Monday team meeting from Darren Humphreys, he shared with me that Jenkins Oil just advised him at the end of last week that we're their #1 seller. And that includes their own stores, all their rally stops as well. And they fuel job to everyone from Richfield down to Mesquite. We are their #1 seller right now. Our Native American tobacco products that we sell, that we only acquire from other tribes. We do top tier, we do the Marlboros and stuff, but our primary focus are those from other tribes, so we can help them as well. Our partners back in New York, we were just advised we're their #1 in 13 states selling, which is probably not great to be, to have that acknowledgement, but still, that's the type of business that we're doing out there at Exit 51. It'll just grow. Our next project will be to bring in a fast food restaurant, a full service restaurant that's not even in this area. So I'm currently working with Collier's up in Salt Lake, and they're the biggest in North America by way of commercial real estate. And then our opposite side store, we are slowly phasing that out. So by December 31st, it'll be closed, and then we'll raise it, and then we'll open that up for one more fast food restaurant, and then potentially a hotel. I got contacted by our architects and engineers, and they said, I think we could put a 32-room hotel at that spot. So we want Exit 51 to be a destination spot eventually for people coming from the south, from Southern California, Las Vegas, to stop at Exit 51 for their lodging, for their food, and not just for Travel Plaza, but for a destination, you know, for a restaurant that's not here in southern Utah, or if there is one that's in St. George, but it's not in, you know, between St. George and Salt Lake. So that's our next project. Any other questions? Yeah.
Well, I didn't hear you. What did you say your annual revenues are?
At the end of 2018, so I don't, of 2019, I don't have 2020 yet. I think we're about 71 million.
71 million. Now, what percentage of the band would be actual employees of these? That's really an impressive list of ventures you've got.
So I'm glad that you asked that question, and in fact, I was going to share. So for my board report tonight, so this is current numbers. We've got 140 total employees enterprise-wide, so from coast to coast at our different projects and here in Utah. Native employees are about a quarter, almost 25% of our employees are Native employees. And then what that I'm very proud of, and my team knows that I push this all the time, our male to female ratio is 67 males to 73 females. So I'm right side up when it comes to females. And I push that a lot with my hiring managers to make sure that we are at that 50-50 ratio or higher when it comes to females. So notwithstanding the fact I've got 3 daughters, I just love my daughters, and I know how good they are. And my son's not bad himself. But.
Okay, let's get Paul.
Thank you.